Recovery. One of the scariest roller coasters known to man. Some don't even want to get onto the roller coaster. Some people have no choice. This roller coaster has ups and downs, and sometimes you're going way too fast to even know when you're going to stop. This roller coaster goes too fast to the point where you never know if you're going to stop. Sometimes you never know when it's going to even end. December 23rd, 2017. I was 15 and I was on a trip with my church to an overnighter down in Huntington Beach. It was with a bunch of kids that I knew personally, and we were going to just meet a couple of other churches, and we were gonna have a good night. We were gonna get to know each other. There was one person on the trip who lived in Huntington Beach, and I had met him about a year prior. And I was completely obsessed with this person. I had talked to him throughout the period of time, and I thought he was the most amazing person ever. He knew that if he asked me to do anything for him, I would drop whatever I was doing and be there for him. And he knew that. That night at the overnighter, I didn't talk to him much. I was on the phone with my friend at 3 a.m., I want to say. It was very late. I was outside on the phone with my friend when he came up to me. And so I hung up on my friend and we started talking for the first time in a very long time. He was like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And I said, "I'm good, how are you?" And we just exchanged small talk. It was 37 degrees outside. And he asked me, he said, "Oh, it's kind of cold outside. Do you want to go into my car and warm up?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I knew his intentions and I knew what he wanted, but I didn't think he was going to act on them. I didn't think he was going to be that person to ignore when I say no, or stop, or I have a boyfriend, or I don't want to do this. Instead, he just said, "I don't care, shut up, it'll be fine, no one needs to know." A couple of hours later, I got back with my group, and my friend that was there at the time knew that I was gone with this person. She asked me if I was okay, and I said, yes. She asked me if anything had happened, and I said no. Even though I knew deep down something wasn't right. I knew something happened, but I didn't know what it was. I went to my therapist about a week later, just spewing out information. And she looked at me, she was nodding, she was listening, and then after I was done talking, she paused and she said, "Oh, so you were date raped?" And at first I was like, no, I wasn't. That date rape, the term, I hear that on the news, I hear that in my health book at school, but I've never thought that I'd have to apply it to my everyday life. I was dumbstruck. I was like, there's no way. The more I thought about it, however, the more I realized that she was right. When I came to that realization, I texted my friend. I said, "Hey, we haven't talked all of break. I want to let you know that I was date raped and I don't know what to do about it." First thing he asked me was if my friend was okay. And I said, "Yeah, she's fine. Nothing happened to her. It was just me." And then we had a very long conversation. Those two friends ended up speaking to each other. And their stories didn't add up. The one that was there thought nothing happened, whereas my friend who was in Camarillo the whole time thought that I was date raped. That was on me, obviously. But the one that was there ended up texting me paragraphs upon paragraphs, asking me, basically in one sentence, "Why did you lie about what happened?" And At first I was kind of confused as to what she was going about, but then she explained her confusion, and I told her, I'm sorry, I didn't know what happened. And we had a very long argument, turned into discussion, turned into understanding, and we went the rest of the break without speaking. And we went the whole break without speaking. And I didn't tell anyone else for the break except my therapist, my family, and my boyfriend at the time. According to a statistic by the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, or RAIN to be short, only 15% of high schoolers are going to report their sexual assault, boys and girls, from freshmen to seniors. When people think about sexual assault, they listen to that statistic and they're like, okay, well, how come no one else said anything? How come they waited so long? Or how come they're not saying anything at all? And I can answer that completely. It's simple. High schoolers have loose lips. They love to talk about other people. I can say that as a high schooler. I've talked about other people. And those people have talked about other people. It's a never-ending spiral. Once something gets out, people talk about it, and then maybe the next week, or month, or even year sometimes, they'll just move on to the next thing like it was nothing. This happened with my story. I walked into school after winter break, and everyone already had known. People were asking me if I needed help. People thought it was funny. People were surprised, and some people weren't surprised at all. One of my best friends at the time said that I deserved it. Another said I had it coming. Another one said, well, do you blame the dude? And the only word I can think of is weird. It was just weird being in a place where I consider most of my friends being, and they all turned on me like a light switch. I didn't know how those rumors started, but I knew I needed to contact the friend that was there. So I texted her, did you tell anyone about what happened? She said she only told 2 people. And I listened to her say that, and I said, okay, what if those 2 people told 2 people? And then those 2 people told 4 people. And she said, oh, that they never do that. But she doesn't know that. I was listening to all these people just talk about me, and I just took it. I didn't think about it at all. I didn't have time to defend myself. I just listened. People would talk about me. I couldn't go down a hallway without people looking at me, or people laughing, people whispering to each other. Like, oh my God, that's her, that's the one. It was horrifying. Things got to a point where I felt so ashamed of myself and so horrible about myself that I simply became the worst version of myself. I started doing horrible in school. I went from about A's to B's to straight F's. And once that happened, I just completely dropped out entirely. Just stopped showing up. My boyfriend at the time broke up with me because he told me I wasn't the girl that he fell in love with. All my friends, I just completely pushed out. People would text me and I wouldn't reply. I would start rumors about other people, so my name would stop being in everyone's mouths. I would even start rumors about myself, just so people could stop talking about my assault specifically. It was horrifying. It was terrible. I'm a dancer, and I stopped going to my dance classes that I've been going to for 13 years because I just didn't have the passion anymore. I stopped going to church, of course. It was like my life was completely fading before me, and I didn't do anything about it. Like with the rumors, I just let it happen. It got to a point where I had to start seeing a psychiatrist, and she diagnosed me with anxiety and depression. And that almost made things worse in a way. Knowing that I had to have a doctor sit me down and say, okay, you have this, was terrifying for me. because I didn't realize I was out of control. I was in the loop of the roller coaster. I was just confused, and with confusion, I acted just completely crazy. It got to the point where I started self-harming every single day because I was ashamed of who I was and what I had become. That got to a point where I tried to kill myself, April of 2018. And I woke up in my bedroom with paramedics, cops, and my mom holding my 7-month-old cat, just confused and terrified. I was taken to the hospital, and then there I was taken to a psych ward, and there was no other patients there. It was just me that day, and every worker was like watching my every move. It was eerie and just creepy. That was the first time that I sat isolated and realized that I needed to change. The other last 8-9 months, I was sitting in my room just wallowing about who I was and being upset about who I had become. But me being in the psych ward, I was sitting by myself and I just thought, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. I need to change something about it. But I didn't know how. That's a part about recovery that a lot of people don't know how to make themselves get up. That was rock bottom for me. The bottom of the roller coaster. Wanting to change, but not knowing how to change. It was scary. I started going back to school. People kept giving me looks, kept whispering in the hallways. A mutual friend of mine came up to me and said, "Hey, I have a club that I go to and I think you'd be awesome in it. It's called JSA, Junior State of America. It's like a debate club. If you'd like to be interested, here's when we have meetings." And I thought to myself, okay, sure, why not? So I went to one meeting and it changed my life. Just one club meeting at a high school, I talked about things that I thought I couldn't talk about, just politics and whatnot. And it made me realize something that I completely had forgot about. I'm a passionate person. I love being on a stage in front of people, and I love just talking about things. I love portraying stories. I love telling stories. I love just sending a message to people. Going to the clubs wasn't enough. Going to the meetings wasn't enough. So I signed up for my vocal ensemble team and my drama department at my school. And I got to meet people who liked doing those things as well. And that was something I forgot I had. I've always been into performing arts, but I didn't think that I could gain that back because of what had happened to me. I could feel the roller coaster inclining. I could feel myself getting better as time went on. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to get out of Camarillo, and mentally and physically, and just see what the world had to offer for me. So I started taking leaps of faith. And I started getting out of my comfort zone, meeting new people. I took a trip, spring break, to Spain and Portugal, and I never would have done that a year or two ago. It's really insane how things work like that. There's 5 photographs on the screen that are what I would consider my happiest moments in life. Those 5 photographs are only 5 photographs, clearly. Imagine all the times that I had that were undocumented, didn't have pictures, and all the times I couldn't fit on the screen. Those things couldn't have happened if I let my soul get to me. If I let myself completely stay isolated, stayed in my room, wallowed. I was on top of the world, it felt like. I was on the top of the roller coaster. Nothing could get better at this point. Life was great. I was doing what I love, and I was making friends, and it's almost like everyone completely forgot. And that was amazing for me, because I didn't think anyone would. What goes up, however, must come down. With a roller coaster, when you're all the way on the top, of course, you have to go down at one point. There are days where I feel like I've made completely no progress whatsoever. There are days where I feel like nothing has changed. This happens when I think of the person that this all happened with. I think of what he's doing. I go on his university website and I look up his name to see if there's anything that comes up. I can't look at a picture of him without breaking down. I haven't looked at a picture of him in 2 years. He has a very common name, and I can't hear it without just shivering, or looking at a person with the same hair color, same eye color, without being upset. But the thing about that is I never contacted him. I never reached out to him. I never let that part of my recovery completely take over. I never gave up. I always had some strain of hope that maybe it could get better. And it did. About a week ago, he actually contacted me as I was writing my script for this speech. He had no idea that I was doing this, but he contacted me saying that he realized what he did, that he messed up, that he wanted my forgiveness. About a year ago, I probably would have just blindly accepted it. And about 6 months ago, I probably would have sent paragraphs upon paragraphs just explaining how all the things I had wanted to say to him in the last 2 years in just furious anger. But I didn't. I just let him talk. And for me, that was closure. He kept referring to a bridge. He kept saying, I want to fix the broken bridge that was us. And I listened to him say that, and I just thought to myself, okay, but I'm perfectly fine. You're the one that's going through this. You're the one that's ashamed of what happened to you, or what you did. And I'm not ashamed of what happened to me. I fixed my bridge. It's not my fault that you're not fixing yours. And at that moment, I felt complete closure. My whole life from my soul on, I have felt like it was my fault, and I have felt like I couldn't have done anything, and that he won. But he didn't win. I think I won. I'm helping people with what I have to say. I'm helping people with my story. That's when the roller coaster starts going up again. Before I end my speech, there's just 3-4 main points that I want to get across. The first thing is, get out and do something. Don't sit in your room just thinking about what happened to you. Your roller coaster's not going to go up unless you make it go up. So join a club, make new friends, do anything. Talk to someone. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be a parent, brother, sister, family member, a friend, a teacher, a therapist, anyone in your life. You can't let something like this just sit inside of you. If you do, that will almost become a bigger threat than what happened to you. You're not alone. It's very cliche, and it's okay to hear, or it's okay to feel like you are alone at times, but you're not. Ever since I started talking about this publicly, there have been so many people coming up to me, or messaging me, or just anyone coming up to me and saying, hey, I've gone through this, or I've gone through something similar, or I know someone who's gone through this. Just thinking about that makes me feel so much happier, knowing that I'm not the only person in the world who has gone through this. Especially in such a small town like Camarillo, it's very easy to feel like you're the only one. But you're not. You never are. And the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that what happened to you was not your fault. It took me a very long time to realize that, and it took me super long to just let it all go. What happened to me and what I went through with going through the trauma is not who I am. Just because I acted a certain way doesn't mean that's who I am as a person. When you go through trauma, things change with your personality, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. But you went through something that is terrifying, and you learned lessons along the way in high school that some people will never learn in their whole life. And there's something to be said about that. I'm very into music. I love arts, and the last thing I want to say is there's a song by Taylor Swift called Daylight, and it closes out with the line, "Step into the daylight and let it go." And that's exactly what I did. I stepped into the daylight. I got out there, I did things with my life, and I embraced myself. And I let go of all of the baggage, all of the sadness I had. And I embraced it. And now I'm doing better than I've ever been. Thank you very much.